We have a lot of genres and categories in the shooter space. Arena, battle royale, extraction, turn-based, horror, vehicular. I mean, you name a game type, there's usually a game with guns in it. But it seems in 2025, and my guess beyond, these categories are being outshined by one in particular: roguelikes. Now yes, there's plenty, and I mean plenty, of roguelikes that don't involve guns. But as someone who comes from the shooter background, I've found myself playing competitive shooters less and less, and shooter-based roguelikes more and more. There seems to be a level of replayability that for me personally, the other shooter genres just can't hold a candle to anymore. And yes, I know, maybe you should get good, Unc. Sound like a skill issue, Unc. I'm gonna issue my skills inside your mind. Anywho's, today's video we ask a simple question. Are roguelikes just better or not? So I sat down with a few different creators and one of the founders of a dev studio who's actually working on their own roguelike currently, and asked a few questions. First person I spoke to was my guy Destructive Dude. As a friendly reminder, every person in this video will have their socials in the pinned comment below, so make sure to show them some love. They are all great creators or devs. So I asked Dude, as somebody who enjoys PvP and roguelites, what do you think about the state of each? Here's what he had to say.
The biggest issue with like the PvP shooter space is that people don't give games any time to marinate. Like Splitgate 2 had a very bad launch. I talked about that already, right? But I think that the Splitgate 2 could have been pretty fun if people gave it more time. But there's just this, like, the PvP shooter space is so dominated by like the big boys of the industry, like the Call of Duties and the Valorants and the Counter-Strikes. And that's not necessarily a problem, but it makes it more difficult for like new, lesser known games to gain the amount of players that they need to survive, especially when you're looking at like free-to-play games, because those rely on a consistent player base that are willing to spend money on microtransactions because they enjoy the game, right? That's the Fortnite model that works. We know it does. Obviously, some companies take advantage of it and don't actually put out good content like Fortnite does. And then like on the flip side too, like there are so many roguelikes that are dropping like every day. Like especially like if you have access to Steam, like you are just seeing constant games being dropped for free. And in addition to that, they have the ability, because they are, you know, the genre that they are, to make every run is unique. Every time you're playing the game, you're getting a new experience, right? Even when you're playing like some of the big boys like Risk of Rain or Hades, you know, Dead Cells, like you're getting these experiences that are new every time you play it, whether you have 10 minutes in a game or 10,000 hours.
Now, I think Dude's opener is one that is really having a negative effect on PvP as a whole, and that is people not allowing games to get a chance to grow. They release, and within a couple of hours, if people don't like the price point or the UI, or they can't run the game on high settings right at launch, they immediately thumb it down and go on a giant rant about that particular subject. And granted, games should launch in a healthy state at launch. Not saying they shouldn't, but sometimes they still launch with bugs and optimization issues. Human error is human error. And it feels like players forget that that's who's making our games. It's not robots, it's humans. People who make mistakes, people who have flaws, just like you or me. Next person I talked to was my guy Mild Sauce, who's a great gaming creator who also talks about new and upcoming games that you can enjoy with your friends. So I asked Sauce, as someone who does enjoy the PvE side, but kind of leans more towards the PvP side, what about roguelikes brought you over to that style of game? And given the state of each, do you think roguelikes may take the lead over PvP in the upcoming years? Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, just a little background. I spent most of my youth grinding every competitive shooter known to man. Like I started with the original Halo Combat Evolved back when I was a kid, played through all the competitive Halos, all the competitive Call of Duties, Battlefield, all the way up till, you know, partway through college, where I started just like get a little burnt out on like competitive games. And so I've been like slowly trickling back into like more story-based games and more games that I can play with my friends but aren't super competitive, player versus player focused. Something about like the more casual style of game modes where I'm still getting that, you know, stimulation, I guess, from the fast-paced shooting, but also being able to play with my buddies and having a good old time. Yeah, there's something about roguelites that just, you feel like dying is kind of like what you're working towards, but also not in like a negative way. Because I feel like the stigma you get from PvP games where like, oh, you died, I'm gonna rate. Like I play Tarkov all the time, And when you die, like my keyboard's in the window, like my mouse is off my desk. I'm pissed, you know, like I got whatever. But you know, playing a roguelike, I'm aware that I'm going to die at some point. I can't survive forever. But there's like some level of progression. I gained something from playing this. I use SteamDB a lot to like find games, and like if you sort by rating, a lot of the top rated games, like there's 1,000 games that release every month, maybe more, I don't know. But like the ones that perform the best each month are consistently like roguelites. Like there's other ones in there too, but like the top 20 consistently has the majority of them being roguelites. It's kind of crazy, like statistics wise, to go look at. Like not only are there more of them being made, but like the audience is like gamers are wanting more.
Coming off Sauce's statements, heavy on the pause. Heavy. I got a comment which summed up at least why I'm playing roguelikes more than PvP games now. And it's from a guy named Lil Johnny Halfbreed. Look, I can't control these niggas' names, okay? I don't want to hear it. Here's what he had to say. I always felt like roguelikes are the single player version of competitive. Instead of having to be better than the other players, you have to be better than the level designer, the computer, etc. And again, that really sums up why I love them. I enjoy challenge and pushing myself, but I'm kind of burnt out on toxic communities and GG no heals. Roguelikes give me a real challenge, and challenge is what makes games fun for me, or it's a big part of it. I also had a quick chat with the man them across the pond. Hey, Zoom, was that good? I hope it was. Anyways, some of the homies that live in London who are also creators, but they're also just avid gamers like the rest of us. And I asked them really quickly, why are y'all tired of PvP? This is what they had to say.
Can't relax in PvP. You have to try. Like, you have to try. And I understand there's people say there's casuals, so you can just play casuals, but casuals you still gotta try. I don't understand it. I don't care if it's ranked or casuals, you still gotta try, bro.
There's no difference between quick match and ranked and majority.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, bro.
Matchmaking in PvP games is at an all-time shit. Like, it's disgusting. Can't tell me about no skill-based matchmaking when I ain't played a game for 6 months. I'm not the same skill, brother.
Exactly, and that's the same with For Honor as well, man. They're all putting you up against rep 500s, rep 900s. I mean, they're expecting me just to chill in a casual. Like, bro, like what I'm trying to say is if I don't try, then I'm just gonna get fucked up and I'm not gonna be having no fun in it. So I have to try it, at least. Like, I have to try it.
For our final segment, I got to talk to one of the developers of a new roguelite coming Q4 of this year called Lort. This is a co-op action roguelike built for 1 to 8 players, and the game looks incredible. Now, for reference purposes only, Shaq and his co-founder Zach, that's right, Shaq and Zach, both came from Epic Games, and both of them worked on one of the biggest games in the world. Yeah, Fortnite. Now, they decided to start their own 10-man studio called Big Distraction, and this is their first project. And I had a lot to ask, so let's get into it. Let me say real quickly, they do not lead with the whole ex-Epic devs thing. This is something I just found out from talking to Shaq over the course of this interview. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I just wanted to know a little bit of the background story of the dev studio Big Distraction and kind of how Lort came about.
Zach and I, my co-founder, we had left Epic and we did like basically a year-long sabbatical. We were like, let's step away from games for a bit. So we went out to like the Smokies and did different trips like camping and stuff. And then we were playing a lot of games. And at the end of our time, we're like, you know, we could look for jobs at studios, and they all seemed not great in terms of like what we'd be able to do in terms of like purview and what we had done before. And the opportunity kind of came for us to start our own studio. So we said, let's do it. So we started Big Distraction, and we found people to join us who were kind of like-minded, who are like trained in AAA, but know the faults of it and wanted to kind of do something that was really like, let's get back to like what making games should be, which is like, making games for players and focusing on the fun and focusing on the real shit and not getting a bunch of birds in your ear trying to like everyone's trying to vie for their own thing. And we're just like, hey, what do players actually want to play? Let's look at the market. Let's look at what we're playing and see like where things collide.
So what made you guys go the roguelike route for your games? Like, is it because you came from the roguelike background, or were you guys just an overall fan of the genre?
You know, Zach and I really we played a lot of games that year off. Raft was one of the big ones. What a fun game, fun with your friends. You know, we played Valheim. We played a shit ton of survival craft games because survival craft games are super fun. We had ideas on taking like a survival craft game and trying to make it session based. I think we really like session based games. Ultimately, like the industry has been very tumultuous in terms of money and studios getting big. And we saw a lot of companies start big companies, raise money, and then spend it all and not put out a game. And we're like, we can't do that. So we scoped everything back. We're like, hey, let's save that survival craft idea maybe for the future. And like, what's something smaller that we can do that's really like co-op and team and fun and session-based oriented. Roguelite is such a huge genre, and really it's just all about the elements. They're session-based, they're run-based. So being able to play with your friends and drop in and out is a lot easier. Being able to onboard your friends is a lot easier, and you don't have this time sink of like a persistent world like in a survival craft game where like if you weren't in there from the start, you've missed out and all that stuff. So I don't know if that's a good explanation, but that's kind of why roguelites. I mean, if you look at the industry and look at what people are liking, like I think smaller games that you can experience and bring people in and have these runs and have something in like a 15 to 30 minute time frame, I think are good and fun. And those are the games that I like playing. I'm a millennial, but that's enjoyable to me, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, this is where this whole idea for this video came from, because I was sitting and I realized that I was playing like my 13th roguelike in the last 2 weeks. And I'm like, dude, I never ever touched like Valorant or COD or I barely play any of the only reason why I'm playing Farlight 84's new update is because it's new and it's first person and I like what they're doing. But I'm like, outside of this, I am always on some form of roguelike style game. Even if it doesn't involve guns. Like I'm out here in some open world, fighting goblins, using magic, something. But it's always about just knowing creating good builds and progression systems, all these things.
The builds,
just like,
getting the power up, like,
yeah.
You know, the RNG, like I love all that stuff. And so when it all clicks, it can be super gratifying. I mean, I guess you're saying, you know, you play a lot of roguelites, the games you said you aren't playing as much are PvP games. Yeah. I also think like PvE is so special, and I think like a lot of the big dogs in the industry overlook it.
You said something and it just made me think about this, because I think that's what it is. Even though I am gravitating more towards the roguelike genre in general, I think I'm gravitating more towards PvE in general. I think I'm finally getting to a point where I'm burnt out on toxic communities and people yelling and we gotta scream about you're not healing it. And it's just like, I still have frustrations when I play my PvE games, but they're mine. It's like, God, this build didn't work, or if I take this out and twist this out, maybe this will. I'm actually enjoying that frustration more than just cursing on my teammates and calling them dog shit for not, you know, tanking properly and all this other stuff. So it leads me to my last little question for you, bro. What is your thoughts on the state of PvP games in 2025 right now?
I think it is so hard to be successful in PvP games because they need a large player base. You kind of sink or swim on hour one when you launch a PvP game, it seems like these days. Like I can follow a PvP game and look at the charts and be like, all right, well, that one isn't going to have staying power. And I think that's a bummer for everyone involved. The stakes are too high in PvP games. You know, if you want to make a big one, you try to make it free to play. You need to be a Nihoyo, right? An Epic. You need to be a huge company that can pump out content, weather some storms, and give you all that free-to-play goodness to like warrant it. If you go paid, it's a whole other way. It's another gamble. But ultimately, like, they live or die on a very vibrant and large community. And if you don't have that, like, most games are not successful. Like, that's just what it is. Like, that is just what the facts are. You go into game development knowing that, like, the high likelihood is that you aren't successful. And so you just keep trying to stack the chips in your favor. And I'd say, like, being especially a small studio, starting with a PvP game, or even at any point, like, it's very hard. It's more viable to say be a PvE VP experience. I think adding that environmental play in the middle is really good. Again, games change, environments change, but I remember, like, again, that PvE VP experience, I think is the right middle ground, to be honest, between like a vibrant PvE community and like a way to get a PvP game that like can work with scale and not kind of have all those other pressures. I don't know, kind of rambling. But...
No, I'm glad, because you actually, once again, made me think of something that I didn't write down. Because as you know, Wildgate just came out, which is a PvP game, and it's a good game. But what I noticed is a lot of people are mad at the price point. And I noticed also that having that background as an X fill in the blank dev from a major studio is also a hindrance. So with you guys being from
100%.
you know, Epic and working on Fortnite and, you know, people saying like, oh, these are ex-Epic devs or whatever. Like, do you feel like having that title, like the detriment that it can cause? Or do you feel, because I always thought...
I love to talk about it. We've actually been a studio since 2023. We didn't announce until 3 months ago. And we didn't do that for a reason, because if we announced 2 years ago, you would have seen, oh, X, and you've seen this how many times? X blah, blah, blah. So you would have seen X Epic, Fortnite, Psionics with Rocket League. You would have seen X Raven, Call of Duty devs, X Dice, and the Finals devs, WoW, and Hearts. You'd have seen all that, and you would have come up with your own expectations of what game we're building. Yeah. And I don't think it benefits anyone to do that. Because to be honest, in 2023, we didn't know what game we were making until 2024. That's when we started full development on Lort in January, and we're trying to get it out within 2 years. And so I don't care about our backgrounds. If it helps people pay attention to us, cool. Or if it helps us get like a foot in the door with someone, awesome. But I don't think you'd set your expectations on it, because all those games I just listed are not PvE roguelites, right? Like every game that I just said that our developers have worked on are not those games. It was a specific reason why we did not announce 2 years ago with all that. And like when we did, you know, we talked about our background for a little bit, and then we wanted to move on because the proof is the game. What we're here to talk about is Lort. Big distraction as a company. Like I hope it is successful, and I hope it becomes a name that people associate with a certain type of game or quality or vibe or feel. But Lort is the game we're making and selling, and like that needs to speak for itself.
Well, is there anything that maybe you want to tell the people a little bit about Lort? Any information, any news, any of that kind of stuff that I can put in here?
Lort is a fantasy action roguelite. For you and your friends. You can play it solo, single player, totally. If you want to play it with your friends, we can support up to 8 total people. We found that like we were modding a lot of games to support extra people, so if we can support it, we should do that. We are coming out on Steam at the end of this year, if all goes well. And we are right now targeting a free demo launch at the end of summer. So best way to keep up to date is to wishlist it on Steam. You'll get notified of the demo. We've got a Discord and stuff that's going to start picking up soon, hopefully. And we're already doing some private play tests right now, just to make sure everything is going as we hope. Cut it where it made better sense and I didn't sound like a rambling idiot.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Because I forget how this was, maybe a couple months ago or so. It was just so odd when you first sent me that message, because I was like, dude, I had this game on my wish list already, because it was one of those, like, you go on Steam, you're looking at something, and be like, hey, you might find this similar game interesting, because I'm always in the upcoming sections of stuff, like what's the popular upcoming, what's trending, what's this, what's that. Yeah. And I remember seeing it and being like, oh, this game looks dumb fun. Now, I know a lot got covered in this video, but I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this particular subject as well. So make sure you leave it in the comments below and tell me, what do you think about this? Do you think roguelites are taking over? Are PvP games just kind of slowly falling to the wayside, or are they stronger than ever? Let me know your thoughts. Again, like and subscribe, big dog, because it helps, okay? Sorry, apologize, lowering my voice. And I'll see you in the next video.